Yes. Today begins a new order. Your lands, your possessions, your very lives will gladly be given in tribute to me. In return for your obedience, you will enjoy my generous protection. In other words, you will be allowed to live.
Yeah. Freedom's been overthrown by skull and bone scrolling key lunatics, upside down crucifix on their rosary. It's the home of the brave land of the supposed free and trilateral commission expeditions overseas. Opposing me's a socially accepted secret known to me. The Jason group mistakes the truth as its golden fleece. Am I supposed to believe Masons who have a mixture of Satan and Catholic scripture, trading some gas to Hitler? Should I believe when your forefathers Jack the Ripper and you worship statues in the forest and practice Wicca? I've seen it unfold. Summer season, reading a scroll, translating Mason, speaking in code at Bohemian Grove. Prince Bernard of the Netherlands left some evidence, and the Bilderberg shows our presidents ever since. Veteran Illuminati invaded the Scottish Rite, denounced God and Christ, worship man and forgot the lights. So I gotta fight, cause I don't care how it sounds. The CIA planted C4 to bring the towers down. Planes hit, a weapons born, tracking us with echelon when video exists of a missile hitting the Pentagon. What a masterpiece, the past repeats, it's never gone. In daddy's footsteps, Junior reenacts Desert Storm like let's get it on. Act righteous, cause a fast crisis, double gas prices, and blame the fact we tax hiked it. But observant optics can see through a Berman's logic to just turn a profit and fatten Halliburton's pockets, making Satan's fire lakes out a higher place. So this time I break, there's only so much I can take. Here's the truth, we the people have been seeing your attempts and realize we the ones you declared war against. Here's the truth, I refuse to have you controlling me with my faith in a bunch of snakes, I just don't believe. Here's the truth, we the people have been seeing your attempts and realize we the ones you declared war against. Here's the truth, I refuse to have you controlling me with my faith in a bunch of snakes, I just don't believe. The Holy Roman crown is sacred, and it seems the house of David left black nobility and Jesus somehow related. Black don't refer to the color of these cowards' faces. The powder-pasted skin makes them the proudest races. Illuminated lineage of lonely chromosomes, known for seeking the return of the Holy Roman throne. Committee of 300, calling shots close to home. Tap it in your mobile phones, match it up your vocal tones. It's your darkest beliefs started with Harvard's elite and Yale's fraternal orders, marketing the market of beasts. Deceiving as a demon, playing the part of a priest. Habsburgs causing famine while we starve in the streets. Old school psychology, facing fate or numerology. The newest colony and Lucifer's future prophecy. An aristocracy with souls in the devil's hands. An architecture plan, city streets designed as pentagrams. Hidden cams on every inch of this blessed land. A very chip GPS attached to your genetic strands. But I'll be damned if I...
Rich, you really trying to get us kicked off the goddamn internet tonight, Rich.
Did you see the TikTok video that I just made? Well, you probably ain't had time, but I just finished up a TikTok video. But the only place that I could put that fucking video is on TikTok, because I know that there's no way. Every time I try to put that shit on YouTube, it's declined. So I don't even, and I pay for YouTube. You think that, you know, they go ahead and be like, well, he fucking pays for it. So
yeah, you got YouTube Premium.
Yeah. So
this is you know, this is why, you know, it's just certain people, man. I got so much. I never heard of this person before. This is called Diabolic. I guess that's the rapper's name or the artist's name. And the name of this song is called Truth Part 2. Now, where I struggle is a lot of times where I hear like, you know, conscious rap or whatever you want to call it, it's kind of corny. But this guy right here, I thought he was Eminem for a second. I thought it was Eminem. Dude, when I first heard him.
He's got a lot of hip hop in him, don't he?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
That dude's been out since probably 2001. That song has probably been around that long. But at the beginning of that song, where it says yes, you know, and he's talking about we'll be free as long as we do what they say. That was George Washington. That was the portrayal of George Washington. So that's how far back this shit really goes. It goes, dude. This shit goes way back to like the 13th and the 14th century.
I want to introduce. I'm so humble tonight. I have a great panel with me tonight. You know, me and Rich, we've been making content for a couple of years, and I'm so glad that Kelly is, you know, along the ride now.
Cool.
like I said, definitely check out episode 12 of Paradigm. I think Rich was on my first, I think he might have been my third or fourth episode. Him and Kev, shout out to Missing. So I'm glad I could bring you guys on the show tonight and we can have this conversation. The main topic, we're going to talk about a lot of things, but try to squeeze it into an hour. But the main topic is, are you prepared for a civil war against the incoming immigrants on American soil? You know, we're going to have a respectful conversation, but it's going to be a conversation about, you know, what can you do to prepare, and also what are going to be like the little signs that a lot of people are really not paying attention to. So Kelly, hop up in here. I want to give you the floor for a second to just you know, I want your opinion. What do you think? You mentioned what was it, reality decoded, and your opinion on this topic.
Well, yeah, I was mentioning that channel Reality Decoded, and he goes by RD. And I mean, I don't know. I kind of had an opinion about this, but not like your typical opinion. But then when I heard what he was talking about, I wish that he could come up here. My God, it blew my mind. Um, Basically, you know, I kind of had the attitude of, you know, it's not right for us to be helping another country when we have, you know, this is a typical argument, when we have so many problems of our own and so many people that need help here. I live in LA. There's tents popped up everywhere. There's a lot of homeless people. There's a lot of veterans that have issues and can't get help. And so I always say the analogy that it would be like if I was going to help my neighbor down the street with their children, but then I neglect my own children. That's how it feels sometimes. And I know a lot of people say, well, why can't we help everybody? But we're not helping everybody because we don't ever focus, in my opinion, on the people here first. And I, you know, not to be like, oh, American first, but I mean, you know, I mean, that's where we are, right? You know, so but anyway, so that's kind of where I was at with that. I have nothing but love for Hispanic people, though, because living in LA, I know so many, and I've never met not one Hispanic person that is not a super hard worker and just very nice, and they're all very Christian oriented. So I have nothing to say about that. I know, obviously, there are some really rough people that do come across. There are a lot of gang members. So I'm not naive to that, but I haven't come into contact with any of them so far, thank God. But anyway, I don't like the fact that just basically anybody can come over across the border. And I remember when I was telling my husband about how people from China were coming across the border, he didn't believe me. And it's funny because sometimes I'll tell him these things. He doesn't believe me. He's always been a Democrat his whole life. And then he'll hear it on the news, and then all of a sudden he believes it, but he doesn't even remember me saying it to him, which I always find funny. But that's very strange to me. I dislike that more than just people coming in from Mexico. But anyway, back to the RD thing. He was making a point about how, what if they're all coming in and I don't even know how to even put it into words the way that he explained it, but basically almost like another Holocaust, in the sense that there would be a point in time where they would be rounding up everyone that was not a citizen, and we would all be cheering it on, thinking, okay, great, you know, because they're focusing on all these uh, murders and rapes, which is awful and disgusting. But it could make us all turn against all of them as a huge group, and like be rallying for them being rounded up and having God knows what happened to them. So I mean, if he could come on, that would be awesome. Or if he wants to chime in and chat, I told him that we were on. But that's pretty much that blew my mind because I had never even thought about that possibility. So that's where I'm at.
Did you want to
No,
piggy? There you go, Rick.
I got a few comments on that. Okay, first off, if he doesn't believe what you're saying, there's a video, there's a YouTube page called Muckraker, and what this guy done is he went all the way down into the lower section of Mexico, and I mean even further down, and he followed the immigration as it come up. And what he found is the United Nations and the Red Cross. And I know that y'all, just kind of give you a perspective on the Red Cross. It's the same Red Cross that wore the Red Cross back during the Crusades.
Is this the channel right here, Rich T? Muck Raker?
Yeah, Muckraker. And he shows you the maps that the Red Cross and the United Nations are given to China and other nations to and how they're giving them money and funding them to come up into the United States. Now, you was talking about how it would be another Holocaust. I'm with you. I truly believe that there could be a chance that could happen, but it's like if you watch the video for Civil War, they show it looks like an LGBTQ guy, and he's holding a Barrett Jackson 50 caliber sniper rifle. Well, the Civil War is not going to, if it happens, it's not going to be just like a specific culture or group, because they're going to have these people out there. But a lot of people are going to be looking for which side that people take. Like right now, you have so many black people that are on the same side as the patriots. They don't necessarily want these people into the country, but in the same token, they've made it to where like immigration into the United States, because we all know, and you should know this as well as I do, that Mexicans have always come across the border, and they've worked the fields, and they've moved their way all the way up into like Salinas, California, and then they'll come down south into the winter, and they're quiet, peaceful, family-oriented people. But then you have a lot of people that are coming to the United States, and they're mixing and mingling, and it kind of makes it hard. I mean, I can pick out, because I've been around so many, migrants that come here for work and stuff, and they're just about their family, and Mexicans that I could tell the difference between the two. Like I met a guy today, and he had his whole arm draped in an American flag, and we talked about how his parents had actually gone back to fight even in the Korean War, and and he was a Mexican. So yeah, I believe you're right on some stages. Like I tell people, if a civil war kicks off, the best thing you could do is dig a fucking hole and hide until the shit is cleared. Because I mean, I can make a video, and I'm not for the red pill or the blue pill, because I believe that, why take a pill at all? Right? So there's always that third option, think trinary instead of, Republican, Democrat, black or white, or, gay or straight, male or female. You got all these different factions. But I always look at people that are like, they're always quick to take a side, and they're, everybody is always, they'll dehumanize you by calling you a roach, a maggot, this or that. That is the first stages of building gas chambers. That's how Hitler got everybody, was by dehumanizing them. You get what I'm saying?
No, you're like right on. I'm loving everything you're saying. I agree.
But what we're going through right now is what Yuri Bezmenov said. It's called destabilization. So in the 50s and the 60s, well, the late 50s, 60s, when they started sending, teenage students to different countries to go to their colleges and stuff, they had basically had brainwashed them into socialism. So then they brought that socialism back here and they started teaching it in the colleges and stuff. So what we ended up with is a bunch of politicians that knew and started to, agree that the best way to get people on your side is to try to give them as much free shit as possible. And that's where we are now. So most of the migrants that are coming over here, they're going to New York cities and places like that. And this is what Yuri Bezmenov called destabilization, because if you look at what's going on in New York City, Chicago, Colorado, Los Angeles, and Sacramento, and places like that, the bigger cities, it's even happening on smaller scales in Memphis, Tennessee, and in Nashville, Tennessee. What's happening is they're going in, they've lightened up the laws, they're stealing, large amounts of shit, and they're basically breaking down our stores to where they're like, this is it, I quit. You got Macy's, you got all these box chains that are closing up in these big cities. Well, when it gets to the point, see, I can already see this going on because I'm a truck driver. I'm in logistics. Truck driving is slowing down. The company that I work for myself has lost contracts with people like Dollar General Store, Dollar Tree. What are a few others that they lost by? But these stores, because they're starting to shut these stores down. Well, you've heard about the trucker strike. Well, most of the things that would affect New York would be like produce and things like that. But you got Aldi's and all these stores that are shutting down. Well, when they shut these fucking stores down, then they're going to start robbing these trucks, the ones that do come in, because you know what? They're going to need any way to make money, because that's what criminals do. Well, it's going to be a collapse. People that are living in Chicago right now are mad because they can't even go find a place to get, just the basic needs that they need. They have to go outside of their area just to find a Walmart store or a produce market. So when that happens, then it's kind of like, I'm sure you've probably seen that, the old short video where the dude touches the spider and all these little baby spiders just spread out. What's going to happen is these bigger cities, as they start to collapse, those immigrants that are going to become like rogue cells, because we know that they're here, we know what they're doing. They're going to spread across the United States into, the flyover states. And whether anybody wants to believe it or not, it's inevitable. It's going to turn into a civil war. And you have so many people that want Trump to be the president. And like I said, like I always say, he's a persona. All a president is a persona. He's not running shit. He's just a face that they stick up there. If you listen to Putin's speech, he said it himself. He said all he is a personality for this country. He can change a few things, but all in all, a president doesn't really do anything, and we don't even know how he gets picked to be the president or to run as for the presidency. Like I always say, people need to learn that even if you have a president up there, just like in the Bible, when the Israelites went out in the desert and they wanted a king, well, God said, very well, you can have a king, but you'll always prostitute yourself, because just like Jesus wanted people, he said you could do these great things too. The problem is everybody is always looking for someone else to save them instead of standing up, learning what it takes to understand what is really going on, what is growing, seeing the trend, and empowering theirself. So that's what I always try to teach people. We all can do the same thing. It's whether people choose to do it. But with all that's going on with the immigration, from just watching the trend, I see a collapse which is going to turn into the Civil War. And if Donald Trump, if he doesn't become the president, I truly believe that you're going to see a civil war on a major scale. But it's not going to be, I think that's a lot of why they're bringing these immigrants in. They're already talking about putting them in the military. They're talking about putting them into the police force. Well, if the United Nations and the Red Cross are helping these people come over here, who the fuck do you think that they're going to work for? And like everybody has said, whenever you see the United Nations on your soil, you better worry. Well, these people are going to be for the United Nations because it's the United Nations that helped them come over here. They're not going to be for the American people. They don't believe in the same things that the American people believe in. You can see it through their culture and the way our culture is changing.
Now, a conversation we was having, me and Rich, was, they have certain plans, they have certain agendas that they seem hell bent on carrying out, regardless of who the personality in office is. So my thing was, the question that I was asking Rich was, okay, if Donald Trump gets elected, is it, if they want a civil war to happen, is it kind of a situation where it's just being postponed for 4 years, or do you feel like it can be completely avoided?
I mean, when I think back at everything that's gone on so far, it's hard not to think that even from the beginning, he won on purpose. I mean, this is, if we're gonna like put it all on the table, he won on purpose, and that was meant to be like selected instead of elected. And then him losing was meant to be to get everybody wound up, kind of like a rehearsal. And now everybody, it's like a tipping point is not beginning, it's already been going. And then when that tipping point happens, I completely agree that with Rich about how incrementally it feels like they're I mean, whoever they is, we know who they is, are trying to create a collapse scenario. And then when that happens, it'll be all out chaos. And the Civil War thing makes sense because everything's about the Hegelian dialectic and choosing sides.
Yeah, you see the pendulum is swinging to the left, to the right. And I mean, I love the fact that I see so many black people that are for Trump or for the Republican idea, because that, like they said that a lot of them, they say that their families always followed the Democratic beliefs, but it seems like what the Republicans would are what we see as the modern day Republican is what our grandma and grandpa would consider the Democratic Party. Has changed up that much. Just like the fact that there's videos out there that tell us that we never were a democracy, we're a republic. You know what I mean? We're the ones that are supposed to make the laws, but it's to the point now where you don't know how many fucking laws have been replaced in the past week. Right? Nobody votes on anything. You have no say so. And but as far as I see so many black people that are now for Donald Trump, and it's going to me, I think that all of them together, it's going to turn into a civil war, right? People are mad in Chicago about what the fuck's going on with their city, and that that's why they've been let down by the Democratic Party, so they're for Trump. But
Do you feel like Trump has the enough power, influence, or leverage, whatever you want to call it, to avoid this whole civil war? Or do you feel like, with these agendas that they have on the table, do you feel like a civil war is complete? It's impossible to avoid that.
I think Donald Trump loves his country, and if you've read Donald Trump's book or whatever, Donald Trump is what the Chinese said whenever it comes to, putting people into office. You want people that were bridge builders, construction workers, because they know how to build a country. That was Donald Trump. He ain't he don't talk the prettiest or whatever, but he's going to do shit that's going to piss people off and things like that. He always has. But I think that I don't really think that Donald Trump's going to be the next president. I think that I don't think they're going to put him in there and it's going to piss everybody off. And that's what's going to kick off what's going to happen next. And I'm just one of the type of people. We don't know where it's going to go, and you don't know who you can trust. Everybody's going to be mad, and shit's going to kick off. And the best thing you could do is dig a hole and hide yourself until the chaos is over with, right?
Yeah, well, I was thinking about what Loki, I think what you're also getting around to is wondering if I'm right, if Donald Trump is the one that is not necessarily, swinging the pendulum either way, but keeping it from the tipping point. Is that what you were getting at?
Yeah, I was just saying, yeah, like if he had enough influence to kind of just,
yeah,
I believe so. Whether he wants to be or not, I don't think by his choice that he's what I think right now. Everybody is looking for balance, and they're looking at Donald Trump. But if Donald Trump doesn't come into office, then that pendulum is going to it's going to tip over one way, right?
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, I don't really like to listen to all his rallies because it gets very monotonous because, he keeps repeating himself. I mean, he's a good salesman, because you're supposed to tell people. So he is good at that. But he had made this comment about how if he doesn't get elected, or he said if we don't get elected this time around, I don't even remember exactly how he said it, but he basically said we're going to be not like a typical we're going to be in trouble, we need to get elected. It was more like there's never going to be another election again, like everything's going to turn upside down kind of a thing.
I believe him.
Yeah.
Remember, I told you when Donald Trump was still in office, I said, if Donald Trump does not get reelected, we're going to be in deep shit. And I also told you that whenever the virus kicked off and shit, that hyperinflation was going to come next. I mean, we just went to the grocery store today and we got this little bitty ass truck and we spent $300 in groceries. Most people can't even afford their rent. All of this kicked off after coronavirus. And Donald Trump wasn't really for raising taxes or doing any of that other. He's the only one that's looking for another way. Now, but I do believe him. I don't think America is going to be America if Donald Trump doesn't get in there. And if he does at least one thing, we need him to close the borders, find out who the bad guys are in all of this deportation, and deport the ones that are bad. We got laws in place for them to do it. They just don't follow them.
Do y'all feel like I have a theory that the inflation kind of kicked off from it's kind of blowback from the stimulus package? Am I tripping? Am I delusional for thinking that? What's your theory on this inflation?
No, I'm gonna tell you. I'll tell you the way I understand this. Okay, so whenever they started giving out money, they had to come up with money, just like they come up with money. They're like when the millions of dollars that they just sent to Ukraine. Well, they don't have no money. We're broke. We know we're broke. So they have to go to the Fed. Well, when they go to the Fed and they say, okay, we need, $1 million or $1 billion, whatever they, come up with. Well, what they do is they basically take so many pennies off of the dollar that you have now. So where you got a dollar now, your dollar is probably only worth maybe about 2 cents. It's kind of like they said back, during the last Great Depression, it said a loaf of bread only cost a nickel, but nobody had a nickel, right? Well, now if we wasn't on some kind of a, digital currency, it won't be long and you'll need a wheelbarrow to carry your money around just to buy your groceries if we were still carrying around dollar bills, because they've borrowed so much money against our dollar bill that it's no good no more. And that is your inflation. They love that shit because every time that we have an inflation, if it costs you from where it cost you $2 for a loaf of bread back in the old days to where it's $10 for a loaf of bread, you're talking about the taxes on a dollar. That goes back to the government. Just think of every exchange of a dollar is so many pennies. trillions of dollars are being made by the exchange of a fucking dollar bill. And those taxes, that's a government raise, just like minimum wage is a government raise. Because when you have to pay somebody the new minimum wage, well, the hamburgers either have to get smaller or you have to pay more for your hamburger. Well, then you have the taxes of the dollar. So the taxes of the dollar on the wage raise, and the taxes of the dollar on the commodities all goes to the government, doesn't it?
Listen, I'm gonna let you know right now, Rich. They are firing off on Trump in that comment section. He said Trump signed off on $1 trillion stimulus package, and Biden added to it to make it worse. You know, me and Rich gonna go back. I mean, me and Rich is on the same page. It's funny because he doesn't. We had a conversation on it. He doesn't believe in voting at all. He doesn't, and I don't either. I feel like the real.
I think you're. Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain.
But hold on, aren't we supposed to be focused on what's going on behind the curtain and not in front?
I could give a fuck less what Trump's doing.
Yeah,
I pay attention. Like I said, I don't use my feelings. I look around and I try to do a trends analysis. Everything's about trends, and if you look at the trend, well, you know, everybody seems to be jumping on the Trump bandwagon, but what happens if he doesn't win and everybody's on the Trump bandwagon? So the trend now is, you know, we're immigration. We got all these people that are coming in the country from, you know, different countries, and you know, we're having, you know, they're not going to follow your culture and your laws. I mean, in a way, I think it's a good thing, because I think they will harden people up to what is really reality. You know, most people think reality is, you know, as long as you're getting your meal for the day and nobody calls you a name, and you know, you don't get butt hurt over this or that, that's reality. But the fucking reality of life is the African woman that's hoping that tonight that the lion doesn't come into her shelter and eat her child, right? So I think that everybody in America, they've become so soft by all the things that they've gotten. And in some ways, I look at the trend and think, this might be a good thing. It might be a good thing if hell comes here and hardens people up. Maybe that's what people need to realize their own strength, because most people are looking for a fucking president to save them, instead of saying, you know what, okay, we're going to pick a president, but we're not going to go just that far. We're going to start working in our own communities. We're going to start uplifting our own people in America, right? Nobody does that anymore. Everybody's out for themselves.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Kelly, you want to hop in?
Well, I was just thinking, I think so. If and this is, you know, I don't feel like I should have to say this, but I don't vote, because my right is that I choose not to play into this silly system, just because they just overturn everything that the other one does, and we're just stuck in limbo. But I was thinking, so if Trump wins, then I think what happens is it holds off the collapse. This is just in a nutshell what I think. And then if he doesn't win, then the collapse comes sooner. That's pretty much what I think is going to happen. The collapse is coming no matter what.
You know what I think would be great? With all the power going out in different places and AT&T, I think it'd be fucking amazing, because right now, you remember a couple years ago, Lo, I told you, I said, with the eclipse coming up, you know, there's going to be more solar flares, more activity. I mean, even if you're into that conspiracy of I Pet Goat, even at the end of I Pet Goat, he shows Jesus' awakening, and you know, there's sun flares and the church falls in the background, right? So even like when Donald Trump said that he was going to drain the swamp, I don't think that he was going to. Maybe he might have had some idea of what's coming. There's been lots of, you know, talk about the age of Aquarius, and people waking up to the bullshit and what's really going on. And whether you believe it or not, the sun has a lot to do with, you know, us waking up to things. So I'm hoping that maybe we might have a solar flare that would wipe out all of this bullshit that keeps us occupied.
Yeah,
Wait, so you're pro blackout, Rich? Is that what you say?
Yeah, yeah. Dude, have you ever think about this? So it's not that I'm religious, because I don't put myself into any specific group, but they talked about when the Watchers had fallen, right? Don't you think it's fucking kind of weird that they talk about these Watchers that had fallen, and then you got these people that are always talking about the elite, which are from the Merovingian bloodline, are the ones that run all these countries, right? And they know that the bloodline runs together. Well, in the upper echelons of our own government and other government, they put up all these fucking cameras and shit just to watch us. They don't really do anything. It's not like they're helping any of the American people to find that dude that shot their daughter or any shit like that. It's like they just want to watch us like we're a bunch of rats.
yeah. Well, I was thinking, imagine because when we think of the term Civil War, we're thinking ethnicities, which, I mean, personally, I think a lot of us are all past that. We're at a higher way of thinking, but the 1% still thinks that we peasants think the same way. So they think it's going to be us against each other. But what it should be, and what I feel like it's going to be, is going to be the 1% against the 99.
Yeah.
And, that could be crazy, but I mean, the numbers always win. So we'll see.
Well, they said that when the United States was formed, it was the 3%. That's where you get this, the threepers, and they said it was the 3% that fought for their rights. And another thing that I've noticed in this, whenever they talked about the migrants up in New York and shit, right? I thought it was really crazy because they showed like the governor up in New York or whatever. They asked her, they're like, well, what are you going to do? You got your own people that are out in the street, and you're taking in all these migrants into shelters and stuff, and these are things that you wouldn't even do for the poor people of the United States. And she just like, well, what do you want me to do about it? I don't know if you've seen that statement, or sometimes you'll see these on the news where they will be like, well, so what do you want us to do, right?
Yeah, can't stand any of those people. I can't, just even listening to them and watching their mouth move irritates me.
Well, here's what's really crazy about it, because that goes back to a saying, let them eat cake. And if you've never heard that before, that is exactly what kicked off the American Revolution. And in the French Revolution, because in the French Revolution, the people were starving, and they needed to not be taxed as much, so that way that they would be able to feed their families and shit. The queen told them basically let them eat cake, which meant basically eat shit. And that's what kicked off the French Revolution. Well, what's crazy about that is the man that had helped start the French Revolution was Thomas Paine. Well, Thomas Paine had come to the United States and helped kick off the American Revolution. We believe that he was the one that actually wrote the Declaration of Independence. But the same things, the same sayings, the same scenarios are happening right now, and it's just like, wow, I wonder if people noticed that they did that, and what happened the last time that they did that shit.
Yeah, it's like I always say this low key, it's like we're on it's like Groundhog's Day. We're just stuck in the same loop, going over and over again, doing the same things, repeating history.
Yeah.
So at least if the let him eat cake thing, I mean, yes, that has happened in the past, but I don't know. I mean, maybe like I'm imagining if things got unfortunately really bad, people could at some point come together and realize that what we need is each other, not someone governing over us all the time.
Well, they've always used us against each other in the laws of polarity. You know, it's kind of like that meme. I know you've probably seen it. Most people probably have, about how if you take red ants and you put them in a jar, and then you take black ants and you put them on top of the red ants in the jar, and if you put them in there peacefully, they will pretty much assimilate, remain calm and stuff. But all it takes is a hand outside the jar to shake that jar, and they will start a war, red against black. So they've always, in the United States, they've always tried to keep the blacks and the whites separate. And like I always said, America would not be America without black people. So I'm not going to be that white guy. Yes, out on the streets, that's a black guy, obviously, because I'm a white guy and it's black and our color, we're different. But they've always used that against us. Martin Luther King, he rose up and was for the civil rights, but started out as the rights for the trash man in Memphis. But as soon as he got to the point that he was starting to spark fame with the white people as much as the black people, just like Tupac Shakur and just like Malcolm X, he was for the black man. And he may have started out calling us white devils, but it did. But after time, once he started to change his ideology of that's when they die. Tupac Shakur had just as many white people following him as black. Everybody loved Tupac Shakur, so obviously they couldn't keep him around because he became political, right? So anytime, they've always tried to figure out a way to keep blacks separate from whites, males separate from females, and they've always used that against us. And like you said, whether the Civil War is not necessarily going to be a specific race against a specific race, it's going to be more of like a
class.
A culture type of war.
Yeah.
But what's crazy about that is there's a lady that has a book. It's called Pure White Trash. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, or heard of the book. It's really a good book because she talks about how in the South, the white people, had integrated with the black people, and we were called poor white trash to the rich, the elite, and to the North, we were clay eaters, trash, so it wasn't necessarily a race of how it started out, and it was a culture. It always in the United States, it's always been a culture war. It's just that most people haven't really noticed that. Even eugenics, which they used on just as many white people and black people together that were poor in the South. You can actually go look it up. Eugenics in Indiana. Eugenics has always been in the United States, and Margaret Sanger used eugenics herself. But that's where Hitler had gotten it from in the first place. Hitler did not. He didn't even come up with the idea to do anything to the Jews until he learned it from America.
I know what you're talking about because I've looked into that stuff. It's very interesting. But I was going to say, I think also it's interesting the timing of this, migrant quote invasion, because it seemed to me like with all the BLM, wasn't that what it's called, BLM? Yeah, stuff that went on with the Floyd thing and how that reached a tipping point.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when we didn't decide to kill each other here, it's just interesting that now we have all
That's
these people.
a great point, Kelly. They're like, well, these motherfuckers won't take themselves out.
Well, yeah,
We need a new plan.
Yep.
And
Wow.
what? That is a hell of a point. And that all started out with George Floyd, which is crazy about that because he was crushed at the corner of a car. Now, see, like I've always told low key, I'm like, look, bro, it's this goes all the way back to the 13th century. This is all wars are used, to me, is the upper echelon of Freemasonry against ISIS. ISIS were considered the assassins during the Crusades. It even tells you that in John Wick 3. He said,
Yep.
when he and Halle Berry went to the Russian said, well, you got to go out into the middle of the desert and find the elders. You got to go until you're just about to death, and if they would decide they want to save you, they'll come find you.
Yep.
Those were the assassins, but they're still a fucking brotherhood. So when they wanted to scare people in the United States, they call up, the brotherhood over there and be like, hey, how about you start cutting off heads and shit, and we'll show it on video and freak out the American people, and they'll be ready to go over there and fight. And you know what? We'll get this war going on. And like I always told Lo, how many kings and queens ever get assassinated or killed? Or it's always the poor people. It's always the poor people. But George Floyd was crushed at the cornerstone. He was a Freemason. There was all kinds of, crazy shit going on with that. But that's when the BLM had pretty much kicked off. Even if it was a grassroots movement, it was black people actually, fighting for their rights, and they have every right to. And we was all fucking mad about what happened with George Floyd at the beginning, but we had to calm down and try to figure out what the hell is really going on. It's just crazy that they kicked off. Well, all you got to do is put one bad actor into a group of peaceful protesters and throw one stone, and next thing you know, the fear will kick off a riot. So I believe they was used. And the whole idea of defunding the police is because look around us. Look at all these fucking cameras, man. Even in a little town where I'm from, my daughter had ran off with this guy. Well, they was like, well, yeah, we already seen him. He had crossed over the bridge into Illinois twice. That's because they got these flock cameras everywhere. They are watching us. They don't necessarily think that they need the police anymore. They think that with AI and everything else, that they'll pretty much be able to take care of all situations, right? And I really think that that's what all that was about, was to defund the police, to get them out of the way. Well, now they want to take and they want to give the rights of the policing to, I guess you could say, legal migrants. I'm not really for sure if they're trying to put them into both, but the illegal immigrants that are coming over here, vetted migrants, but they're wanting to put them in the military now. So we don't even know anything. They know that these are ghost people. A lot of them, they don't know if all of them are in gangs. I'm all for people that want to come into our country and blend into our culture, be peaceful, and I deal with them all day long. I'm like you. I'm out here, and there's all different cultures out here truck driving, so I get along with all of them. But I still have fears of people that come over here from different countries that don't want to, they don't want to integrate into, our way of life. And they see us kind of more like Scarface said, these people are just a bunch of pussies waiting to get fucked. Because there's a lot of them that are coming here that think the same way that Scarface.
Yeah.
Hey, Kelly, did you ever see that movie Leave the World Behind?
Oh, yeah. I've watched it 3 times.
So that's kind of where this whole video, we probably talked about this like almost a month ago. That's basically where this video came from. Like Rich was basically, telling me his theory on what that movie was representing.
Everybody else's, ain't it?
Well, I mean, I was, before you even brought that up, so this is interesting. I was going to say, for a very long time, because I remember in maybe 2017, I don't even remember how I found out about this, but I was looking into how a lot of people were moving from Silicon Valley over to New Zealand, and they were specifically moving there and building underground bunkers. I mean, okay. And I've always thought that, if you get the police out of the way, but you have all the cameras up there, then whoever, these powers that be go underground and they can just watch everybody kill each other like a
Yeah,
big purge.
and they'll be able to watch it because they got all cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
But like I told Low Key, when it come to that movie, here's a totally different perspective. So you have white people, they come into the house that was belonged to black people. So there's kind of standoffish, but then they through time they kind of grew together. Just like we have immigration that's coming over here right now. Just like, some white people are standoffish with some black people. But, once we get to understand we both have a common bond, then we kind of grow together. And it's crazy how like she was highly sensitive to things that are going on, and the guy was kind of like, oh, it ain't no big deal. But it took both of them to actually get through this situation. The black guy had a lot of intel, right? And see right there, that right there, that picture right there, that is the black sun. Whenever it shows the world comes behind it and then it turns red around it, that's the black sun. Right now we have all these earthquakes, solar flares. We have all these weird noises going off. All of that is being depicted in that movie. But like the little girl, she is self-dependent on about what is on TV, friends and shit like that, right?
Yeah.
Now, at the end, everybody would see like this. See right there in that scene, she was hypersensitive to the fact that that guy was stacking up water and goods, and he wasn't trying to pay attention to nobody. Well, she knew enough to know that he was up to something. That's something her husband, the only thing that he could depend on was GPS, and without GPS, he wouldn't survive. But it took all of them. It took the whole group to kind of keep everybody centered, right? To keep them level. But at the end, it could have went two ways. The little girl, basically being selfish and self-centered, had basically ruined everything because they're out looking for the little girl, right? But they needed to get to the bunker. We don't even know if they got to the bunker, or if the little girl didn't end up being in the bunker by herself and everybody else pretty much was wiped out. They made the scene that, well, was it China? Was it the Muslims? Was it Russia? Right? You had all this shit going on, but it was weird that the animals were hypersensitive to things.
I was gonna say, I think that the thing that they did there is they were trying to make it, which Kevin Bacon said, and that one scene, that we have a lot of enemies, so it's not even just one specific enemy. And now coming through the border, it's a lot of different countries coming through. It's not just like it used to always be.
But we don't know. There's so much stuff going on, right?
Yeah. What I was going to say that's kind of interesting is when the girl finally makes it to the bunker, instead of even going first to watch something, or even going downstairs to be safe, she's sitting by the window eating junk food. And that's probably what most people think of the typical American.
Yeah, and like I told Lo, isn't it pretty typical, because most of the TV shows that we give our children to watch are the parents are stupid, they don't really know what's going on, and it's the kids that end up saving the world.
Yeah. Also, did you guys ever go over in the scene when they're living down below, the daughter and the father, GH? There's a piece of artwork that's above the bed, and I'm pretty sure it's the United States, but it's in green and red, and I believe it's upside down, and it's some kind of famous piece of artwork. And that, I looked at that, and
that was it right here. It
very
just
creepy.
showed it here. You see that?
Yes, that's it.
What the hell?
Oh no, okay, I guess it's not upside down. Oh, but when I know what happened when they were shooting the scene, it was upside down because it was the way that the camera angle was, which they do all that kind of stuff on purpose. Like if the flag's upside down, it means distress. But yeah, if you should look into what that piece of quote art means. It's very, very strange.
Yeah, I see it. I want to bring up another perspective to all this. All this that we're tripping on right now, as far as immigration and stuff like that. That could all be just like a ruse to keep you occupied with what's going on. Because the reason I keep bringing up solar flares and shit is because Drunvalo McKizzledeck had, I mean, this was back in early 2000, maybe even further back, was talking about how as we get closer to the Mayan prophecies and shit, he said that basically the Earth has a grid pattern of what animals become extinct and ones that are reformed into whatever. But he said that as we get closer to the age of Aquarius and there was going to be this Christ consciousness, it's going to be a chaotic time. It's time when our DNA is going to change. And he said that it's going to be a highly chaotic time for more indigenous people. Now, when we're talking about indigenous, right? We're talking about indigo. We're talking about, indigenous tribes. We're talking about black people. We're talking about, mostly, African tribes, things like that. It's going to be a chaotic time because these are things that are going to change in them, and that's what we're going through right now is a chaotic time. Well, we're starting to see, the sun is, coming up with solar flares and stuff. If you remember right, that they had that situation, I believe it was in Cuba, where they thought that I believe it was the CIA was being bombarded with frequencies that was messing with their head and blowing out their ears and shit. You remember that?
So
Yes.
my Havana syndrome.
The Havana syndrome. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they done figured out that the Havana syndrome wasn't true. It didn't really happen. They don't really know what the hell happened there, but they're starting to see strange cases of this same thing across the United States, where there was actually a school and the students and the teacher was affected by something. They don't even know what had happened. So as we're coming closer to this next eclipse, you got talk of, doom and gloom. I don't necessarily see doom and gloom, but even in that movie, when they showed the way that the world had come around, you could see the sun behind it. That is the black sun. That is also the same thing as the swastika that Hitler had followed, right? Because that was the symbol for the black sun. All of that goes back to ancient times when they talked about the double cataclysm. The cyclic cross of Henday. They told us that there was going to be a time when uh, the sun was going to change, and there would be an awakening of sorts, right? Because we're going to go back to the golden age, but first, the sun's going to start bursting out. It's going to be an angry sun, and it's going to be during the age of Aquarius. Even in the Bible, when they asked Jesus about the end times, he said, "Why do you ask me about the end when you don't even understand the beginning? But I'll tell you that you need to go into the house of the man with the water pitcher and go upstairs." Well, he was talking about the man of the water with the water pitcher being the age of Aquarius, and to go upstairs was to go up here, right? So I think that there's other things that are going to happen here in the next 20 or 30 years, and they know that. That's why they give you all this climate change shit, and you know they need to collect as much money to create bunkers themselves, so they'll have somewhere to go because in some ways I wonder, do they know that this shit's coming and it's a race to build bunkers because they know that it's going to get really chaotic as we move closer to this double cataclysm? It's just a question, right?
I was waiting for Loki to say something.
I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
if you've
Okay.
studied it much. I've talked to Low Key about it before, but even in iPet Goat, the storyboard and everything has taken place on iPet Goat exactly, pretty much the way things have been going.
Yeah,
People that, but like I said, the church is going to fall, and then you'll see Jesus, which is riding the boat of Anubis. He awakens, and it's right when them solar flares are hitting. Well, there's a certain people out there that are saying that, what, we're supposed to have like this solar flare, and
yeah.
it's going to hit your third eye, and we're all going to see what the fuck is really going on around here. But then after that, there's going to be, uh, a double cataclysm. I don't.
Or some will see, and then some will be almost like in Sleeping Beauty, just put right back to sleep, like Men in Black. But I was thinking, in iPet Goat, when the Middle Eastern guy is on the boat and he's like saying for whatever it is to come forward.
Yeah.
If you look at his beard, if you turn it kind of to the side or upside down, it looks like a comet. And when the boy starts whirling up at like a whirling dervish into the sky, it kind of his skirt almost looks like the moon, and it's a black sky. So I always thought that was interesting too.
Do you understand the part? Do you understand why whirling dervishes?
I
Do you,
mean, I've looked into whirling dervishes, and it is very, I don't know. There's something kind of like weirdly occult about it.
well, it's not necessarily an occult. It's called Sufism. I don't know if you've ever studied like Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu was trying to explain the same thing as Sufism. It's basically coming to center and understanding your connection with God and how God is within you as well as all around you. So, people that, seem to think that, what they're waiting for Jesus Christ to come save them, you know, he himself said that he's not coming back. And, you know, he gave us the power, and they believe the same, that we can find center within ourselves and find peace. But that's what the whole whirling dervish is. That is Sufism, and the idea that God gave you power to be gods, and if you're godly, then you can understand and and find peace with the things that are going on around you.
Yeah, it's kind of like if somebody's looking for Jesus, you have to go within, because that spark, that light, you're only going to find it inside. And it doesn't mean, some people get upset with that and think, oh, well, we're not gods, but you're not saying, or we're not saying, God with the capital G. It's more like finding that piece of divinity inside of yourself that can then connect to the rest of the universe.
Yeah, you see how we both understand, and we both know that we know. But the thing is we got to be cautious about how we say it, because people get so pissed off, and they're so centered in their beliefs that they can't think outwardly a little bit. And as soon as you mention things like this, they shut you down. They just shut off. Instead of trying to be open minded and getting a better gist of what you mean by this. I mean, everything around us is God. So I mean, why is it so hard to believe that that the will, just like you said, everybody has free will, low key, but that urge, that suffering in you when you want things to move or to change, well, that's the will of God within you that's causing the suffering, because he's pushing you to move on and do other things, but the fear within you is what holds you back.
I agree. We were having a conversation about, and I think it was Curtis that brought up this like dynamic, right? It was God's will versus free will. Um, are you really in control of your own destiny, or is there an entity working through you? That's kind of the conversation we were having. I'm how can you have, if you believe, now if you were atheist, then okay, I can see. But if you believe in a higher being, most high, supreme, architect, whatever you want to call it, if you believe in a higher being, then it's not possible to have free will, correct?
But that's all you have is free will. Everything around you under this belief, it's what you ask for is what you get, just like it says in the Bible. So whether you believe that you're asking for it or not, that's not God's fault. That's you're creating your reality, whether you believe it or not. But you've taken on so much programming from the outside world, you've forgotten how to become the ultimate creator. That's the bottom line, right? It's think of it like a hurricane. We have hurricanes all the time, and they're like, well, that's Hurricane Francine, and she has a personality all of her own. Well, what is in the eye of the hurricane? There's nothing. It's straight peacefulness, but if you're the eye of the hurricane, you are the eye, just like you say I am. All the chaos that's going on around you has to be created from the eye. It's pulling shit around it to create the outer walls that you see of that which is invisible inside, right?
So my question is, how do you tap into the eye? Like
Well,
whether it be the eye of the
the,
storm or the eye of the spirit or
well,
divinity, how do you tap into it?
okay. Well, first off, you have to realize that what we do is we try to focus on our thoughts and outside reality, and kind of like a radar system. We look outward, and we have opinions based on what we see, but nobody ever focuses on the still point within them, the silence, right? You're so caught up in the words and stuff, but you're not words, right? Words were created by man. How many words are there in nature? You go out in nature, how many fucking birds have come up to you and said, "Hey, bro," or "All right, have you ever heard the grass say anything?" There's no
First of
word.
all, birds aren't real anyway. I'm kidding.
That's right. They're
No.
only
He said that's right.
they're only a construct of man. But see, usually you're looking for a word to give you the answer, but what you need to do is you need to learn to be still. What is that behind the words? There's where you find your true answer. See, you're opinionated to the things that are going on around you, but what do the things going on around you really matter? You want a Lamborghini, but you don't realize that in order for there to be a Lamborghini in the world, it has to be yours. There's nothing, you're not, where nobody's reaching outside the universe and pulling anything in. There's nothing going on outside this world that's coming into this world. Everything that comes into this world comes from Earth, right? Mother Earth. Just like everything that comes into this world comes from the mother. You didn't come from anywhere else but your mother. That's all matter. Matter means mother, right? But where's father? He's the he's the opposite of matter. So everything that's going, all the chaos and shit going on around us, you can sit there and you can look at all these things, or the things you like and the things you dislike, but they're both there. But what is it that's not standing out? Silence.
You mean because you have to be still to be able to hear the silence?
Bingo. Nobody ever said, "Hey, you know what? It's it's in silence that I find Father. I find God." Everybody wants to go in the city and see what's going on. Nobody ever wants to go out into the country, drop all of the bullshit, drop the packages and the possessions, which the possessions are a possession. Nobody wants to go out into the forest or out into the desert. See, because that's where Jesus went, out into the desert. But you realize it's if even if you go out into the woods, it's deserted there. There's no people running around there. So when you go out in there and you give up all of your possessions, that's when you find true happiness. I mean, if you ever watch Joe Rogan, he said that, that guy went over to, these other tribes, and he said that he left his cell phone behind. And after a while, he found that he was so much fucking happier because he wasn't paying attention to what was going on with his phone and with society. Those are the things, see, you can judge people, but you ever notice that when you go out into the forest or in the desert, there's nothing to judge
except for yourself. And that's mainly what I think people are afraid of. But then once you get past that, then I agree with you. I mean, it's very
hard. You find God.
Yeah.
See, even Jesus tried to tell you, he said, fox have their holes, but there will be no place for man to lie. Right? There was no place for Jesus, right? He went out into the desert by himself, and that's when he found Satan, and that's when he found himself, because you know what? He was tempted, right? Well, everybody that goes and sits in a corner for too long, without anything going on, is going to be tempted to get up and go back into the next room and see what the hell's going on with everybody else in this world, instead of sitting with himself and starting to truly understand himself and get rid of his words that have been programmed in his head, and most people don't realize that that's going on, that all these words. And after a while, if you sit with these words, you realize a lot of them, you can hear your father. Okay, boy, you need to make sure you do this. And then mom's like over here, you be sure that you go over here and you do this. So you can actually pick up the characters of the words that are programming you in your head when you're still, and then you realize that they're just sounds. It's kind of like if you play a video game. If you're not used to playing video games, and you start playing these video games with your kids or whatever, and then you may sit on them for 3 hours, then you try to go to bed at night, and all you got is these fucking video games playing in your head, and you're like, Jesus Christ, that shit's got to be bad for you. Right? You know what I'm talking about, don't you, Lo?
Oh yeah.
The words are the same way, bro.
I'm so, because I heard somebody say, I might butcher it, but they said we don't use words, as mankind. The words use us. You know what I'm saying?
Bingo.
And I'm so glad I got Big Rich on here and Big Keebs. I did want to talk about cults. So yes, we're going to talk about cults very briefly. I feel like the society that we live in is just a cult inside of a cult, inside of a cult, inside of a cult, inside of another cult. It's like the movie Inception.
You're right, very much. That's why they call it culture.
There it is, and
the cult of her.
I had the opportunity to do an interview with Kelly, and she explained that as a young woman, she was frustrated in her family life, so she took the initiative, like what I like to call it. She took the initiative to get the fuck out of Dodge, and she got up out of there. And I guess correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly, but it maybe the creator had it in your cards to, and it sounds so fucked up, but maybe it was the creator's plan to have you have to experience this facility called Straight Inc. Once again, you could disagree with me if you like, but
yeah.
But Kelly was explaining to me that the facility she was sent to, her parents signed off on, it basically had the it checked all the boxes off as far as like a cult. Did you want to speak on that, Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, at one point I did look up, I think there's a 7-tier criteria for a cult, and the only one that it didn't tick was it being some type of religious thing. So that was the only thing that wasn't there. I mean, it was AA with steps and higher power, but not specifically Jesus or the Bible or anything. But yes, it was definitely, it was like a molding facility. And when you were saying that about all the layers, I mean, it's so true. And like Rich was saying, there's that still point, and it's, instead of, okay, when I went into that place and it was supposed to be, like a teen rehabilitation, but really, they just wanted you to come out and obey your parents and be like a little soldier. But rather than, okay, so when I ran away and like got into all that trouble, I was actually closer to getting to that point in the middle than I was when they put me in the place that was supposed to, quote, help me. And the place that was supposed to help me actually added more layers on and made it harder for me to find that center point. So,
You know, I don't know if you've ever heard of Anthony DeMello. Have you ever heard of him?
that sounds familiar.
Well, like Anthony DeMello says, that we've all been given a drug. We give our children this drug, and once we've given them this drug, there it's the biggest addiction in the world, and the drug is acceptance, and the idea of good and bad. So whenever your parents brought you up when you did something good, they clapped and applauded, and it was a great thing, and you felt great. But when you done something wrong, they booed you and knocked you down and told you that you was wrong. But in this world, there is no right or wrong, right? You're not a good person and you're not a bad person. You're just a person, right? So we always in our own mind have a war going on with the good person and the bad person, and trying to keep from being a bad person, fighting for the good person. You know what I mean? So you got ego and super ego, and super ego over here saying you're really bad for what you done, and then you got the ego saying, "Oh, please, please forgive me." And this war is going on in your own mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the point is to come to find that, you know what, everything in life is a cycle. It's not good or bad. Just like, in nature, at during the spring everything grows, but in the fall everything dies, and then back to spring everything cycles. The sun comes up and then the sun goes down, and you're going to be good, and you're going to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who draws the line of what is good and what is bad? Because what one person would consider good, another person would be like, you know what, you're not good enough still. So
Well, and
we've all
sometimes
been.
I was going to say, Loki and I, we were talking the other day, and sometimes maybe it's the third choice, because I don't like this. Is it this or is it that? The third choice could be, maybe we're just here to observe and not get
Bingo.
caught up in all the minutia.
Exactly. But we've been programmed like a computer
Yep.
into these ideas by our culture. I
Hmm.
mean, the word culture
Yeah.
itself comes from the cult of Ur. It was in Ur in Mesopotamia where they started coming up with laws and regulations that we all are supposed to follow in the first place. So, but with this good and bad, without understanding you're neither good nor bad, right? And happiness and sadness for the same are the same way. It's like you can't be happy or sad, because if you was sad, it would be like that would be constant. But sadness is outside you. It's like a cloud. As a cloud goes over, in a minute you forget about the cloud, and then it's gone, and then you're back to being happy, right? So you're neither happy or sad, or sick or healthy. These are things that have been put into us, right?
Yep.
But
I
we're
mean,
we're just that, and all in all, that's what we really are supposed to observe that's going on outside of us. It's kind of like the Hindu and Krishna, and multi-arms and all that shit, and you got belly dancers. Well, all of that is we are the idea that which is within us is the one that's creating Maya, the illusion around us, the matrix. We're the ones that's creating it, as they say. It's neither good nor bad, but it's like God in the green room. It's like you were in the green room and you woke up and said, hey, it's boring sitting here by myself, so let me create this play to go on around me. And then I will pick and choose what I want to be good and bad, and get absorbed into it, just like if I was going to sit for a 2-hour movie and get absorbed into the movie. Reality itself and what is good and bad is only created by me.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I just want to say, because I didn't look back at when you guys had been on together, and when Loki, asked if I would come on here with you, I was like, okay, I have no idea who this person is. Wow, like I feel like everything you're saying very much resonates with
Well,
me.
this guy Rich, he just came out of nowhere. Like
Well,
I remember, this guy Rich just came out of nowhere and just started saying stuff that I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but I resonate with it.
Yes, yes.
well, yeah. I mean, so even, and the reason I say this is because even with the migrant crisis and all the things that are going on, it's all an illusion, because death itself, if we follow that, the idea that which is within me comes from that, which comes from God, because He breathed life into me. There's no such thing as death, so it's all just a fucking play. I mean, like Alan Watts said, persona, the word persona, which makes up person, is nothing but a mask. See, because the Roman times, they used a mask which was called the persona to have their plays. So we're all wearing a mask. I mean, you got to agree. In some ways, one moment we can act, a certain way, but in another we could change up and, put on a different mask and act a different way. We can all realize that, that everything going on around us is only affecting us because we're allowing it to. We're safe in our own little world, but we look outward for the attraction, right? The suspense, you know.
I think the thing that we have in common is we don't want to drink the Kool-Aid. People like us, we want to exist outside of the cult, and everywhere we look, it's just like a commercial or advertisement to join whatever cult, whatever celebrity, politician, what have you, anything and everything. And I think that's what is the thing that we all have in common. You know what I'm saying? We want to. Um, I don't think it's an ego thing or anything like that. I think we just want to we want to resonate with that frequency of truth. Or I know, Rich,
But what really is the truth?
yeah, I knew that was coming.
Because everything around us, Lo, like I've always said, we can only pull in 5% of it. I mean, it's kind of like Alan Watts always said that the words that you read in a book are linear, right? You have to read them in a line, but they're not telling you everything that was going on at that time. Just like if you read the Bible, it's not telling you whether it was raining that day, whether it's cold as hell, and people were dying off to the side because they're freezing to death. You're not getting nothing but lines on a paper, but what's going on outside of you is coming in information in torrents, and you can't possibly take it all in. Just like you could sit down and watch a 2-hour movie, and there's parts you miss, and you go back and you be like, oh, I forgot, I didn't remember that. I didn't see that part in the movie. So we have these things that make up our own paradigm. They're like little beliefs and things that we conduct, and when we see something happen outside of it, we try to put it in a box that we can relate to, right? We might see somebody slap somebody and think, oh my God, that son of a bitch just slapped her, but maybe it was a mosquito on her face. See, we'll always think the worst before we would think, you know what, maybe he was trying to save her from malaria or something,
Yeah.
right? So we always, that's what our paradigm is, right? So when you was telling your story, you ever notice that it's always teenagers that become disruptive and have a hard time with reality, because reality in itself, that the way that they want us to believe in it, go to work and you're going to be a slave for the rest of your life and you're going to pay taxes and you become chaotic, or you don't want to deal with shit, you don't want to believe it the way that they're telling us that we have to just see it,
Oh,
right?
totally. And that's the
So
thing that I felt about school. Like, why do I need to memorize stuff just so I can regurgitate it and then forget it in 2 weeks?
that's right. And 90% of the shit that they teach you in school is irrelevant to what's really going on in our life. You know, they would have been better off to sit us down and teach us psychology, you know, because, you know, and maybe even teach us how Carl Jung had come to uh, come up with psychology, and how alchemy and astronomy and these things that, you know, have to do with the quadrivium have a lot to do with our mental states, right? But they never taught us that in school. But yes, we all become chaotic at teenagers until we finally just give up and follow the herd, right? And we're all following a herd in some way. But my wife wants you to finish your story, because she heard you starting to talk about as a teenager how you ran away and how you went through these things.
Well, while you doing that, can I have some of your wife's good ass cooking over there? Goddamn.
Do you here? You want me to show you the
Can
just
you
real quick?
pass the plate? Can you pass the plate, Rich? God
So
damn.
so this is the inside of our truck. I don't know if you've ever seen the inside of an 18 wheeler. We got two bunks. We got the upper bunk, but we use our upper bunk for storage and shit like that, right? And then we got our microwave, we got our Keurig, and our refrigerator. And she had to have all the retro shit, you know. Women love the retro shit, and she had to have the retro covers to go with it.
They got a bathroom in there, Rich?
Well, I'm gonna explain this now. Some people probably think this is nasty, but this is about when you got a woman on a truck and you're traveling all the time. She's gonna have to go to the bathroom, and if you don't want to give her a gallon jug, you have to give her a porta potty. So this porta potty right here, I don't know if you can see it. This porta potty cost me about $300.
That's adorable.
Money
But
well
you
spent.
see how we've what we've done is we've decorated it with all the stickers from all the truck stops and all the places that we've been. And
Yeah.
obviously, it's got to be pretty clean, because if not, I'd be walking around with a pink eye all the time, right? But yeah, so we got our inverter right here. I don't know if you can see the inverter, and the inverter takes our 12 volt system and it turns it into the 120 volts, so that way we can run cookers, like her little stove right there. See, and there's our TV. Let's see, yeah, you can see the TV over there, and it folds around. We got our microwaves, so it's just like being at home.
I like all
And
the pastel colors.
yeah, that's her
Cute.
thing, you know. And see, there's our little Keurig. I don't know if you see this Keurig here.
All right, well, Rich, you've been hogging the mic all show. You gonna let the lovely wife speak, or what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, she can talk. But hey, dude, you 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 know I'm all about empowering people. So when we decided, you know, because we got a daughter that's going through the same things that you went through, and she's ran away a few times, and she had to go into a group home. So while she was in the group home, I told my wife, I was like, look, I think it was like $6,000. It probably cost me about 11 by the time I was done. But anybody that's on unemployment, the government is sending them right now to get their CDL license. But I told her this is the perfect time if you would like to, you know, go out and, you know, see the United States and see the mountains and whatever you want to see. It's a perfect time for you to get your CDL. And she didn't think she could do it. And I'm like, look, if I can drive a truck, you can drive a truck. So that's what we did. We sent her to school and she got her license. And with a 53 foot, which is the longest trailer that you can have on an 18 wheeler, you know, she could pretty much back in anywhere and do all the same things that I can do. And a lot of people always were like, you're hard on her and shit, because I wouldn't give her no slack, because I wanted her to be the best at what she does. If something ever happens to me, I want her to have this skill to be able to take care of herself and know that, she's empowered to be able to do anything that she wants in her life.
So does she travel with you guys?
Oh, she drives the truck, yes. Yeah,
Oh, so everything like calmed down and is fine now then?
No.
no, no.
She got out, and she was out for so she got out a little earlier than we expected. So she was at my mom's, and so she had 3 months, and if she didn't get any dirties or revoke her probation, then he would sign off on her, and then we was going to move to Alabama. Well, when we went home last month, she got dirties, and then she ran away because she knew that she was going to have to take another piss test. So I kind of had to set her up a little bit and to get her caught and picked back up. That because she would run off with like 26-year-old men, 30-year-old black men. I mean, she was so out of control. But so now she's back at the group home in Poplar Bluff, but she's only going to be there for a month. So we're just going to go home and back to Cape Dorado, because
We know we're not going to be able to go to. Dude, we wanted to go to Alabama, and we wanted to live down there on the coast of Florida and Alabama, right there on the line. So we thought that maybe that might be something good. See, it was a paradigm for me too, because I've kind of come to the terms that, you know what, Destiny's not a good person getting caught up with bad people. She in some ways is the one that's promoting all of it, and I have to accept that, you know what, that's the kind of lifestyle she wants to live. And that's what's hard is sometimes in life, people through their own perceptions want to live a life that we can't understand. It's kind of like, in order to catch a thief, you got to be a thief, right? So I think that, that's what she likes. Is she likes to manipulate people and, steal and, do her drugs, which, I understand that, like marijuana is legalized, but for her, it's not legal yet. And when they drop piss tests on her, that's the first thing she does is she gets, freaked out about it, and then she decides to run away, and then she's in more trouble.
Well, the good thing is whenever she decides to stop running and searching for things on the outside and look on the inside, I mean, my God, like you guys, or I would think would be, I wish that you guys were how kind of parents I had when I was going through all this. Would have been great.
Yeah, and that's the sad thing.
Oh yeah,
she knows it all.
She knows all this. You know my mind, and you know how I try to see all different perspectives of things to get a better idea, and I try to change people's perception on the way things are sometimes. But when you know all this and you're teaching it to your daughter, she has figured out a way to take it and be able to use it in her favor to do the things that she wants to do.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
She pretty much manipulated the people that was.
Oh yeah, dude. She'll have them all. She'll have them all fooled, right? So. Yeah.
Well, Kelly, did you want to give the floor to Kelly so she can finish her story?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, oh my God, it's so much to get into. I mean, if your wife wanted to hear it, I guess she could watch what is it, number 12 or number 12 that we did.
Yeah, episode 12 on Paradigm.
But I mean, ultimately, I will say, I have two 15-year-old boys and a 21-year-old daughter. And I don't know about how your daughter is, but I know for me, nobody could tell me, what I needed to do or teach me any lessons. I had to go through a lot of stuff on my own. And unfortunately, my children did too. But because of the experience that I had, I was adamant about not having them go to a, troubled teen facility. I'm not sure what you guys, I mean, I'm thinking about how you think about things. I would imagine you asked a lot of questions and made sure that you weren't checking your kid into a cult. So what I was going to say though.
it was one of those situations where
She stole a vehicle, so
she stole her brother's $13,000 truck that he just bought,
Oh wow.
and we had no choice
to press charges.
but to bring
Yeah.
the police involved. And she was at the point that if we didn't do something with her,
Yeah.
she probably would be dead right now.
She was going to run off with this 36-year-old thug from Sykes, Missouri. So
Yeah.
And he was slinging, fentanyl and shit like that. And you know how
Yeah.
fentanyl is like one of the worst things that you can get yourself involved in. So
And see, to me, that makes sense. The place that I was in, I was there because I had run away 2 times. I didn't break any laws. I wasn't stealing anything. I wasn't hurting anyone, but basically myself. And I I don't know. I don't even know what I was looking for, but whatever I was looking for, it definitely wasn't at home. And I wasn't feeling any support from my parents. But I was going to say, as far as my kids go, I know that until somebody is really ready to stop doing certain things and want to move on to that better path, they're just not going to do it until they're ready. And unfortunately, hopefully she gets it at some point.
well, I'm like you. You know what? To be perfectly honest, I wouldn't be here, and I don't really think I would be talking to anyone about this stuff. But even when I was a teenager, you know, I was in a group home. I was in a group home for 3 counts of car theft and running away from home.
God
And that's-
damn, Rich, what the hell?
Yeah, but see that was just what they could catch me on. I had some things that as a teenager, they probably would have sent me to the penitentiary if they knew that. But luckily, I held my breath through it and I made it through it. But we're all searching for something as a teen. I don't think our parents can give it to us, and in some ways, we think our parents are too stupid to understand. I think it's also part of the programming.
True.
But you ever notice that when it comes to policing and being able to commercialize on it, it's always about the teenagers. The target
It's a
is
big
always,
business.
everything in life. The whole target is about teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of money. There's a lot of money, and because you know what, as an adult now, you probably wouldn't have bought half the shit that you bought if it wasn't for the fact that your teenagers wanted it, and every other teenager had it, so you had to buy that shit.
Yep.
You wouldn't have had to pay for all them goddamn tickets and getting them out of jail if it wasn't for the fact that they could commercialize off the fact that they was teenagers and they was going through these different chemical imbalances in their own mind.
And my just alone with one of my sons. Oh my God, I don't know, Loki, if I've ever told you about this, but I mean, we laugh at it now, but years ago when he was maybe like between 9 and 11, oh my God, I just said 9/11. He would go and somehow, without me knowing, he had went on to Fortnite and I mean, bought so many skins. If you guys know what that is.
Yeah.
That credit card was on fire.
Oh my God. He spent well over $1,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy?
Wow.
See, I got a son about that age right now, and I don't get to see him very much while I'm out here driving trucks and traveling and stuff. And he's starting to grow into his own person. But you know what? I have to say I've got it made because he is a straight A student. I mean, I'm going to have to figure out what college I'm going to have to send him to because I'm telling you, he's a fucking genius. But when he wants a game or them skins or anything like that, like his Xbox, I bought him the $1,000 big old black Xbox, and then he wanted his own computer. He knew exactly what computer, what hard drive. He knew all this. He knows all that stuff. He knows how to put it together. And I think for Christmas, I think I spent over $1,000 just on the tower unit for his computer. But he deserves it, and his mother doesn't have the money to give him these things. So, I always figure out a way to come up with the money so that way he can have these things. Because I just believe that if you want a kid to, work hard, it's kind of like an adult. If you want an adult to work hard, you have to give him some things that, you know, keep him
Oh yeah,
happy, pacifying.
positive reinforcement is definitely the way to move
Bingo.
forward with kids. But yeah, luckily that I have two sons, and that son, I mean, he's apologized for it a million times, to the point where even if we bring it up as a joke, he's like, "Oh my God, am I ever going to live this down?" But I mean, it's funny now, you know. But yeah, but then the other one, because I have fraternal twins, he's just like your son. You know, he will not even get anything unless he gets my okay from it first. So, like day and night.
But see, that's like this whole thing, you know, with depression and stuff. That's like the new wave that's hit in the past probably 10, 15 years, right? Is depression and stuff. But how much do you think that people would have depression if nobody ever made up, or if they just was silent about it? It's kind of like, think about, like, if I say widget. So I want you to think, what is a widget? Now your mind is probably going in circles and is building shapes and colors, trying to spin your idea around what is a widget. You might see something that kind of looks like a little ball with like spongy looking knobs coming off of it, you know, or squares or circles. But when you say widget, your mind can't really come to a conclusion. But if I say teacup, your mind automatically shapes the teacup. If I
Yeah.
say gun, your mind automatically
Mm.
shapes the gun. Just like Superman, they gave Superman, he's a persona. The emo, or the depressed child, is an idea. It's an idea, just like a symbol or a shape in your head that they've given to them to go through these things. I wonder, you know, if you could eradicate the whole idea of depression, would it go away? Because even like Sadhguru had said, you're the world's greatest chemical factory in the world. The thing is that the computer processor that you use to create the chemicals in your body, you haven't learned how to operate it correctly.
Yeah. Well, and also that makes me think of my daughter. She had never ever thought about starving herself or cutting herself until she watched Pretty Little Liars, and they were doing this crap on there, and then social media, you know, rose up, and you had all these people online talking about it, and then all of a sudden she's doing those things, and maybe if she had never even heard about it, would she ever even have done it? It makes me wonder.
So once you realize, you know, even Hitler himself, from what he done, he was trying to create the superhuman. Which eugenics, they was trying to create the superhuman. In some ways, it seems like everything, and you know, Hitler even called it Superman, and then next thing you know, we come out with fucking Superman. In some ways, what we see from Hollywood is magic, because what they do is they come up with a new persona that you can follow if you want to, right?
Yeah, power of suggestion.
The power of suggestion, it works every time. The thing that we always have to try to learn to do is to resuggest. Whatever they've suggested, we have to change that suggestion. We have to, knowledge is king, you know, even though it's what's killed us in the first place, you know. We have to relearn, or learn what it. You ever notice, like in religion, they keep you from learning magic, but there's a lot of magic being used in the Bible and everywhere else, and there's a lot of alchemy. And the idea that, you know what, stay away from that stuff, from because it's from the devil, has worked good for them to be able to use it against you without understanding it.
Yeah, and also so a lot of people don't even realize occult just means hidden knowledge.
That's right. That's right. See, as like I always tell everybody. So Adam and Eve ate from the apple and they saw their self. They was with God at the time, obviously, because they was in that center, the I am. They was with God and God in some ways, and God even said that He made us gods. So they ate from the apple, and mother came into the picture, or matter. So along with matter, the ego came, and they had fear. Well, they took the tree of life and they put it into the center of the garden, and they put the flaming swords and the cherubim around it. Well, what that was is to represent fear. And if you wanted life, life is always on the other side of fear. You just have to get to the other side of it. So if we always conquer our fears, we'll always be like God and full of life. But Jesus himself said that the reason that his people will suffer was from a lack of knowledge. Because after Adam and Eve, got the knowledge, and we picked up the words and shit. That's about as far as most people ever go in trying to acquire true knowledge of what's going on. And from that, this is why they suffer, and that's why most people are, still stuck as slaves in their own mind, right? I mean, there is slavery out here, right? But what would you rather be? Would you rather be a happy slave or a sad free person?
I'd rather be somebody who can see both of those.
Well, see, to be liberated means to be free in your mind. It doesn't matter where you go. If you're a slave, if you're a liberated slave, you're going to be happy, because that's where the knowledge comes from. Liberation even itself comes from the word library, and the word library comes from tree, like the druids, because the druids were the ones that were the knowers of the woods, right? And that's where all knowledge comes from. It was from the woods. I mean, you can go back and you can actually look up Ogham writing, and Ogham writing was the first, and it was basically from the Druid era, and they was making branches, kind of like rune stones and shit. See, that's a form of kind of like a form of Ogham. And if there is, I think I even put it on my page, where this guy was talking about the seven liberal arts, and he was explaining how wood is where they got the first language from, and it's also where the library and liberation come from, because through knowledge you become liberated. Well, where does the knowledge to write down? What do they write it on? They write it on wood. That's why they log it down.
So, I appreciate Rich T for coming on tonight. I appreciate Kelly for coming on tonight. The last question we're going to ask for the stream is, with your current level of discernment and experience on every level, I guess everything that's going on in this present day world that we living in. What is keeping you going, Rich? Rich, what is your wife's name?
Casey?
I want to pass the mic to Casey first. What is keeping you going? Other than that good ass food over there.
I don't know what's keeping me going.
It's up and down all the time for Casey. Yeah. When I met Casey, when you talk about cults and stuff, she was somewhere in between Christianity and Jehovah Witness. And I was like, dude, that's a cult. All that shit's a cult.
I was Democratic too.
And she was a Democrat.
More liberal, probably.
But I taught her how that, to go into nature, that's where God is.
That's what keeps me going low key every day.
Nature. So you said your answer is nature.
Yep, every day I wake up and I get to see the sun come up, and I get to see the sun come down, and I get to see mountains. I could be in the mountains, and I could be in the desert, and I'm just in peace all day long.
Well, would you agree that nature is perfect and man is flawed?
Oh, definitely.
but if man, see, that's why I think that we are part of nature, and nature is God, and we are God, and we are the pendulum on which he observes his own beauty, and he could have created a fucking mirror and stuck it right in the middle of the earth, right, and to look at himself. I mean, how could he even acknowledge that he is God if there wasn't for man? Because, I mean, the sun doesn't know it's the sun. It's out there all alone, right? So it's just the sun, but it doesn't know it's the sun. But God uses us for our emotions, like it says in the Bible. It says that He's with you, He knows what you're going through, because in some ways, if He wants to know how you feel, because what you're feeling is Him, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? If you weren't alive, who would be here to see the sunrise in the morning, to see the trees? You know, though man has his own agenda, and it's usually misguided. You know, at least if you take a moment to look at the nature, maybe watch a sunrise, then you're giving back appreciation to God. You're giving praise to God, right?
Kelly, what would you say is the reason that keeps you going, Kelly?
Well, I was thinking, knowing that there's something more and that it's not just this, like we talk about how we don't want to come back here again if this is a loop.
That's funny. So
And as far as like, that's pretty much the everyday thing. But as far as looking into the future and wanting to be here, I mean, really, a lot of it is for my children. And then it's funny because then when I was just thinking what Rich just said, it's like God wanting to be there for us. And, then the nested reality is then here we are wanting to be there for our kids too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know about the whole loop theory. I think that there is there's no such thing as time, really. And I mean, it's only our perception that creates time. Everything is now, and the only way that we can regulate what we see as time is by movement. But what does that do to the whole loop theory about coming back here if we come to find out that every person outside of us is us and a part of us, and everything outside of us, all people and nature itself, is what makes up the self? What does that do to the whole loop theory and time theory?
I mean, it kind of breaks that. But also, I think when I say a loop, I think more what I'm saying is being stuck, and not in a peaceful, calm, still stuck. Like a stuck is in that fight, flight, or freeze kind of stuck.
Kind of like that. I'm sitting in a room full of stale air, stuck.
Yeah, like I'm.
Need to move. I need change. See,
Yeah.
because most people only want change if it's good. But like a Rubik's cube, you get a nice perfect Rubik's cube, and you fuck it up, and then you keep spinning that. Next thing you know, you get it back to perfect again, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, in order for us to get to perfection, we have to destroy things and fuck it up real good first. And through time, if we keep on the same path, of trying to get things back around, we'll find perfection. See, man himself or woman, because when I say man, I'm talking about both male and female. We're basically, all we are is a square block that hasn't been chiseled on yet, right? We're perfect, but through time we've been chiseled and nicked and started to shape into something, right? But we can't see what the shape is until it's completed. And that's where we are. We're somewhere in the middle. We're taking shape, right? But we don't know what we're going to shape in. Just all of our problems. What do they matter if at the end, man as a whole, we turn into something that's perfect?
Yeah, that makes me think of somatics. Where they put the sand on the table and it vibrates, and sometimes it just goes into random chaos, and then sometimes it pulls together and creates a beautiful geometric shape.
Yeah, because if you ever notice that, like, you're out there in Los Angeles. I'm sure that you've been up in the mountains, and you look down at all those lights, and they're so beautiful. But there's so much chaos going on. Somewhere there's somebody killing somebody. There's
Totally. Yes.
they're in traffic jams, and people are getting pissed off. But from the outside, that chaos looks beautiful.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the chaos in our own bloodstream, right? Cells are destroying other cells, and things are fighting against other things. If it wasn't for that chaos, we couldn't even be here. So maybe it's us trying to control the chaos.
That's
That
a
is the
good
big
point.
problem.
Yeah, like maybe the stuck feeling is that I'm trying to control it and I need to just let it go.
Yeah, and you know what? You ever notice that it comes in waves? You can let go of whatever's going on in reality, right? And be like, fuck it, I'm getting older now, and you know what? It's not really my fight, because as the teens start to become adults, it's now their world, and they're going to form it whichever way they want. So I could just kind of sit back, and try to find the enjoyable things instead of pinpointing my life on what is just totally chaotic. Well, then sometimes you'll fall back into it, or you might see another conspiracy, so you'll fall back into it. But then you come back out of it, and you're like, take a break from it. You got to step back and kind of try to absorb everything that's going on. You come back to the same conclusion of, well, you know what? I watch that shit on the news. I see some things going on around me, but for the most part, life is pretty good, right? We kind of like put ourselves in the chaos and then take ourselves out of it, right, and detach from that shit. And when we start to get a little frantic about it, detachment is the best thing that we can do. And the art of detachment is really great, because how many times do we ever detach ourselves from our own words, or detach ourselves from our own body, and be like, you know what, I'm so much more than that.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Rich. I think that is the whole. I think, if not the whole, that's one of the main purposes of this entire experience: detachment.
Yeah.
That's the. I mean, I personally went through it the last 2 years, and it is a bitch.
Hey, you
you
know what?
know,
One thing that was brought up to me low key is most people don't have an attention span longer than 15 minutes. So when you try to give them good information, anything after 15 minutes, they're not going to pay attention to it anymore. So it's hard to stop people from their own suffering when you have something that is totally going to give them a paradigm shift, right? Like I said, Anthony DeMello is one that he tries to get you to understand the art of detachment, detaching yourself from things that really don't matter in this world. But there's also there's a lady, and her name is Ganga G.
No, I wouldn't suggest her.
Well, she's a little slow, but man, when you get to the point of what she's trying to say, when you realize that the words don't matter, and your body is just a fucking capsule that you're enclosed in until that time's over with, she'll show you how to get to the center, how to lose the fear, right? And usually a lot of what fucks us up in our own life is the fact that we focus on those things that we don't want to happen, instead of, going through them. Kind of like my wife, man, it was hell getting her through school, getting her down here into a trucking company, and getting through that. It was a lot of fear and a lot of worry and a lot of struggle. But if there's one thing that we learned through it is what would life be if we didn't have a little fear and struggle to fight through?
Yeah, true. You wouldn't grow, I
We
think.
would grow. We'd all sit in that room, but that's God's will. See, the
Yeah.
suffering is us trying to say, I don't want to do it no more, but God's will saying, go through it. Just go through it, right? Because you want these things. The biggest part of your wants come because God wants to give it to you, but you got to fight through it to get it.
what's keeping you going, Rich?
Do you want the facts on that? The only thing that keeps me going is Casey and my son, because I know that you didn't know this. Most people, I lost my brother. I guess it's been a couple months ago, and me and my brother was the closest thing in this world. I mean, if I
Condolences.
we was close ever since we was children, because we grew up in a household where with an abusive father, so I always had to protect him. So he had a major heart attack. He was 3 years younger than me, and he had a major heart attack while I was gone out in California, and so I didn't get to see him die. But I accept his death, but I'm at that point in my life where if I was here or if I was there, it really doesn't. It doesn't make it doesn't it doesn't bother me either way. I've accepted death, so but I'm here for my life, for my family, right?
That's true. I can appreciate you sharing that. Um, wow, amazing episode tonight. I definitely appreciate Rich T making time. It's been a while. I mean, I was talking about it's been like a year since I did a collaboration with Rich. I'm so thankful to still have a relationship with him. I appreciate Kelly. Me and Kelly just started doing videos together, but she has an amazing story and amazing, level of consciousness and awareness. So I'm glad that she made time to come on here tonight, and I appreciate everybody that chimed in on the conversation. So
Does Kelly have a channel link? Or are you gonna put her channel link?
Kelly, the interesting thing about Kelly is she don't want to be a content creator.
Yeah, I don't either, Kelly, but I want people to have my perspective. So it's always a fight between I'm going to make a video, but then I'm like, man, I don't want to make a video, but then I want to make a video, or shit like that. So I guess you could call me a content creator, a whatever.
Yeah,
Part time.
I put together some compilations and things that some people would look at and be thinking, "What in the hell is she trying to say?" But if you know all the things that we've talked about and iPet Go and stuff like that, you know what I'm trying to portray. So I think if you just look up Kelly Kebo, I think I'm the only one with that name. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this has been a good talk, and I like the fact that underneath the politics, that actually we're both on. I think we're both on the same page on enlightenment and a higher knowledge of what's going on behind the scenes of all this.
Yeah, this talk went in a really cool direction, in my opinion. I mean, because we could have just been sitting here for 2 hours going back and forth, alien dialectic, and we didn't. And so that right there,
Right.
going against the machine, ghosting the machine.
Dude, there's so many different, like the light. Those are different layers of perception. Even though all this chaos and shit's going on, there's another way that we could look at it. It's always good to have another way that we could kind of look at what's going on and say, does it really matter? Should we be fighting against this, or should we just sit back and observe and try to realize that what, it's just something out there. It's emotional candy, right? It's psy candy.
Totally. Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. It's kind of like I don't like scary movies. I don't really like too many movies at all, because that type of anxiety, I don't know, it doesn't stick with me. But I like things that are going to give me a thrill, or get me ramped up. And watching politics and the things like what's going on at the border and shit like that, that 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 for some reason it's almost as good as a scary movie, right?
Exactly. I mean, they're trying to get that rubberneck train wreck effect so that we don't focus on the things that we should be focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just going to say, I saw RD in the chat, and I was in the beginning talking about he was the one that helped me think of this different way of looking at it. And to me, what's great is, especially if you've been going down these rabbit holes for a long time, is when you can look past, realize that you're starting to fall back into the cult, and then pull yourself back out.
Yeah.
And that was great the other night when he was talking about that on his channel. It definitely pulled me out of my paradigm.
It's kind of like when you hear the stories of Genghis Khan, and come to find out, you know what? All of us probably got some of Genghis Khan inside of us. I'm sure it was hell back then, but you know what? Society, mankind is still around, and we've lived through wars and rumors of wars and all that shit. So as a whole, no matter which way it goes, we're all gonna be okay.
And it's funny that you say that, because my near-death experience, the main takeaway from that is that I was absolutely terrified. I was basically drowning in whitewater. I was whitewater rafting. And when I don't know, just all of a sudden I had this vision. I mean, I probably get into this on another show because now we're already over 2 hours, but but the basic thing was that this calm came over me that I like is unworldly. Like you can't even explain it. And I know I've heard people say that a lot when they have that experience. And I just know that's definitely something that's attainable.
I do too. You know what? I've had dreams of drowning before, and in some way, maybe in one of my past lives, I've drowned. But I always think it's really peculiar how you struggle, but then all of a sudden everything becomes calm and peaceful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How do you kind of handle fear porn? How do you guys kind of?
I love fear porn.
Wait, what? Wait, what?
Are you talking about what we started out talking about? That's basically fear porn. How did it go? Right?
I like something that helps me question what I'm already thinking. But when it comes to like YouTube channels that are, truth channels, and they're basically doing yellow journalism, and it's all just fear porn, and they're trying to sell gadgets that are going to help you if there's, a solar flare, that's that kind of thing. Is that what you're talking about, Loki?
Yeah, like prepare. But I feel like we're coming from a place of, you shouldn't have any fear existing in your spirit at all.
Yeah, it's mental.
Instead of I'm just speaking on my from my perspective. Instead of gathering stuff and all of this, canned goods and all of these materials and stuff, you need to be preparing to have a real relationship with the source. Like, because I'm not of this place, so I'm a perish regardless. You know what I mean?
I believe that low key, but I'm kind of like Terrence McKenna said, pack heat and be happy. It doesn't mean you have to stack up all that shit in your basement, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
You know what? Protect you as you're going down your road, right? But yeah, I don't believe it. I had all the canned goods and I had all that shit and I dropped it all. I was like, screw all that shit, because you know what? You could give up a life trying to consume all that shit to have a what? A life? That's not a
and
life.
you may not even make it back to the place where you have it all stored.
Right.
I think I'd rather just go ahead and exit the motherfucking place.
Yeah. I didn't have to deal with all that. But see, I've been in, I've had buddies and they're all gung ho and it's Rambo. It's all fun. It's kind of like everybody likes to go out and play laser tag and shit. Everybody likes to have an airsoft, go out and play war every once in a while. And but after that, you want to go home to your normal life and be like, dude, yeah, I've seen all this and that, but I wasn't going to go out and buy, all of the fear, and because that is a market, right? All that shit's a market in some way.
EMP shields for your car and your phone.
You know, I watched a video. It was a long time ago, but they was talking about how back in the 50s, after the boomers, everybody, you know, was doing great, had money, had brand new cars, washing machines, and all that shit. But they realized that in order to, when you have everything and life is good, then you won't buy shit anymore. So they had to create problems to get people to regenerate money and keep the wealth moving.
You know, I was having this conversation yesterday with somebody. Like, when I walk outside, you know, I just had I had an armor of the creator on me. I don't have a knife on me. I don't have a gun on me. I mean, honestly, if somebody, you know, if somebody did something to me, they be doing me a favor. Okay. All right. Finally, thank you. But it's just like, I don't invite that energy. That's just my perspective. When I go outside, I'm respectful. Hopefully I get that energy back to me. But I never even think about things like that. I'm gonna be honest. I have no fear. I don't
That's
carry
good.
fear in my
That's
spirit.
good.
You
That's
know?
good. But you know what? If man wasn't designed to at least be creative with his thoughts, and that's what all fear comes from. You'd be like my wife, you know. I hear text messaging walking through the fucking truck stop parking lot after I've showed her story after story of
Listen,
people getting run over by the truck.
Rich Casey about to go upside your head with that skillet. You better stop
Dude,
talking about that lady like that.
we had these conversations, dude. Just yesterday, she was texting, walking across the truck stop parking lot, and it kind of went up a little grade, and she's over here tripping over her own goddamn feet, and I'm like, dude, put your phone down. What if you trip and a truck comes by and he doesn't see you and his tandems roll right over you? You know, you'd be dead, and then I'll be sad in the world. So you get so fear, or the creativity of fear, is the only thing that keeps you alive.
I don't like that word fear. Maybe caution or
Well, we're the ones that create that fear. Basically, what we do is we take what we see or what has happened to us in the past, and some way we conjure up ways to see how it may happen in the present to protect us. I mean, even dogs do that, right? You know, a dog ain't going to run through the same fence that broke his leg the last time that he chased after the squirrel.
True, but part of that is, in my opinion, trauma-based mind control.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people when they have fear and anxiety and stuff like post-traumatic stress disorder, you know, animals have the same thing. But have you ever noticed that, like a deer, you know, you might see a deer and fire off at the deer, but you didn't get the deer, and the deer will run off to the tree line, and what's the first thing he does? He shakes it off, just like a dog. You know, if he's fixing to get in a fight, and then things are broken up, the first thing he starts doing is shaking. That, you know, that's what man doesn't do anymore. He sits there and dwells on that shit instead of, you know, exercising that shit back out of his system.
Yeah, and with animals, it's natural. Anything that we go through personally, I think is good, because, like we were saying, it helps you grow. It's the constant pushing it. Like I was telling Loki the other day, but with the 9/11, you know, they were constantly showing those buildings going down, and you know, you just watch that stuff, and I just don't think it's good for people personally.
Don't you think it's kind of odd that we had two becoming one on 9/11? Now, what I mean by that is two towers fell. One was male, one was female. And what did they build afterwards? They built the One World Tower. And there's a black cube that's set right in the center of it with 88 lights.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever been there, but I've been to those pools, and it is very, very eerie. It's not a good feeling.
Yeah, I bet so. No, I haven't been there, but I do believe that our own people had used tannerite, mixtures of like tannerite, to blow it up. Even the heat and the temperatures that they said that were underground. That, dude, no jet fuel has ever burnt steel. You know, if you
So Rich, do you want me to keep this video up, or do you? What are we doing?
Oh,
What are
I'm
we doing?
out there. I think that they did that on purpose to let you know that we was at a turning point in time and society.
I want to thank Kelly for making time tonight. I definitely want to thank Rich T for making time tonight. I appreciate everybody chiming on episode. Can we get Casey to close us out? I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired from moderating. Can Casey close us out tonight?
How do you want her to close you out?
I don't give a damn. She can say whatever she wants.
Did you learn anything tonight from this conversation? She was one of those kids that would be paranoid if she had to go give a class speech and at least 700 people up on here and maybe 1,000.
I've really enjoyed your guys' conversations.
Till next time.
Yeah. I don't think you got to talk enough though, Loki.
Who, me?
Yeah.
No, these are the teachers right here. I shut the fuck up and listen. All right, y'all. We'll catch you on the next one, man. Salute.
Bye.